Good morning, everybody. I am Holly Celiano, and I am with my co-host, Dr. Matthew Singer. Welcome, Matt.
Good morning, Holly. It's a pleasure to do this with you again.
Yes, I love these conversations. So today's topic is one that everybody can relate to. It's not what happened that hurt you. It's not what you did that hurt you. It's not what they did that hurt you. It's your interpretation of what happened that hurts you. This is empowering, for it means there is a solution and it resides in shifting your perspective.
Yes.
How profound is that?
So profound. Because we've heard time and time again, nothing has any meaning except the meaning we give it.
Correct. Correct.
Mhm.
And everybody, can look at something where some will say, oh my God, that was the worst thing that happened to me. And others will say that was the best thing. Like, I can use myself as an example. I went through breast cancer. Instead of saying, oh my God, that was the worst thing that happened to me. And let me say, it was no, no picnic.
Mhm.
It was not a walk in the park. But I turn around and I look at it as it was so empowering for me. I see it as a blessing. It shifted my life, it shifted my perspective. It had me dig really deep within myself to heal myself. So
Absolutely.
I look at breast cancer as a complete blessing in my life.
That's exactly right. And when we look at the things that for other people could be an absolute terror or nightmare, and they don't get out of that nightmare, and it stays a nightmare for them, it keeps perpetuating more and more because now the law of attraction is going to kick in and it's going to keep drawing more of a nightmare to them, and their life will seem more and more and more like a nightmare, and then they'll start speaking the way that you shouldn't, like, oh, I this is just how my life goes, or it's a nightmare, or it never works out for me, and then they keep creating that nightmare
Hmm.
because that law of attraction, it's unconditional love. So if they're in a place of it never works out for me, that's all that can come back to them. It ends up becoming our greatest friend, not our greatest enemy, but we have to understand how the system works.
I I watched a movie. I know I'm gonna mess up the name, so I won't even say it because I can't think of how to pronounce it. But it was about a man that was taken abruptly out of his home. It's a true story.
Mhm.
He was put in Gitmo, and they had no crimes against him, but they wanted him to confess for crimes against 9/11. They tortured and beat him and did horrific things to him for 70 days straight, just to have him come out with a confession. And after all of that, instead of being full of hate and full of rage and everything, he said he prays for the people that did this to him and he forgives them. In his forgiveness is freedom. And it
Yes.
was such a profound thing. What was done to him was just horrible. I mean, horrible. But he came out of that in love and forgiveness and not holding grudges, not
Mhm.
saying that was, horrible and I hate the people and I love them and I forgive them.
Yes. And the important word here in when we first started, when you were describing what we're talking about, is it's our interpretation of what
Mhm.
happened. So the important thing is let's break that down. Like, where would somebody first develop their interpretation? Where are the places? They're going to get it from their parents, right?
Mhm.
They're going to get it from their grandparents. They're going to get it from society, right? Teachers, religious leaders. Where else are they going to get their interpretations from?
TV
TV.
shows.
Social media, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when when someone is able to recognize that their interpretation is actually creating either a heaven or a destruction in their life, what would the first thing if somebody says, well, how do I change my interpretation? How do we guide them to changing their interpretation?
The first step I would say is you have to look at it and can you see any goodness from the experience?
Hmm.
Can you see something positive come out of what happened to you? Because every experience that we have is the precipice to a breakthrough. You know, anybody that was leading up to something magnificent in their life had defeat after defeat after defeat, but they
Hmm.
kept going and eventually they broke through.
Yes.
So if you can see, okay, this isn't bad, this is just another stepping stone to me breaking free to where I want to be and to be the most empowered me that I can be. If you can change that perspective, that's to me one of the first steps. Try to see what good has come out of it. How about you? What would you say?
So I 100% agree with what you're saying. And the the interpretation, if we want to change an interpretation, we have to first be able to recognize that this interpretation that we are speaking right now is not ours. So
Mhm.
once we can first recognize where it comes from, and then we can redefine it. And we redefine it based on who we are, not based on who our parents are, or media, or society, or religious leaders are, but based on who we are. Like you're saying, when you could see the best of the situation. So that means that we're able to make an interpretation, just like that in the movie, that man who was praying for them. You're able to make an interpretation out of love, not fear, an interpretation out of trust and not worry. So it really, the interpretation is going to come from the essence of who we are, not from the knee-jerk reaction of who we're told we are.
You know what I see as a problem in society is most people don't know who they are. They
Mhm.
haven't taken the time to discover who they are. And it really is a lifelong journey to go deep within of uncovering your true essence
Yeah. It's
instead of what's been taught to you. Because we really, as we are human here on the planet, we're unlearning all that we learned to
yeah,
get to our true essence.
that's absolutely true. And a lot of times we see this, you and I see this a lot when we're working with people, is a lot of people are afraid to uncover who they are.
Yes. Because without that story that they have bought into their whole life, who are they?
Yeah.
Who are they without the hurt, without the pain, without the suffering, without the blame, without being a victim?
Yes.
How do
And
you live not having that? Those
yes,
attachments that have become like a crutch, they become your identity.
absolutely. And it's, I'll give you an example where I was working with a patient. It was a female. She was in her mid 30s, and she was married to an extremely abusive husband, but was unwilling to leave him because she said, well, who am I without him?
Right.
So once we were able to do the work, she realized who she was and didn't need him.
Even people that have disease,
Hmm.
that disease identifies who they are. They don't
Yes,
know how to be not that victim of that disease, how to live not without that disease defining them.
yes. So here's a really interesting story I heard from Joe Dispenza. So he was talking about there was a there was a group of people he was working with who they were actually had multiple personality disorders, and the people had on average somewhere between 3 and 17 different personalities, and there was many cases in that group where there was people of one personality who had um, tumors in their body, cancers in their brain. And then when they would switch personalities, they were gone. The cancers were gone, the tumors were gone.
Wow.
So, and it was highly documented because they would go in to um, uh, to hospitals and get all the testing done, and which would confirm the tumor, the blood work, everything would confirm it. And then when they switched personalities, they went back and on the imaging of the MRIs, they were gone. In the blood work was perfect. So it proved that when they truly became a different version of themselves, the frequency, the energy of their body changed, and it didn't match the frequency of the tumor, and it immediately disappeared. But then when they went back to that old personality, it came back again.
That's
So
wild.
so
That
that
is
really,
wild.
yeah, that really shows the power that when you change an interpretation, you're not just changing a thought, you're literally rewiring your entire nervous system and your health system.
Yes. Well, that's why frequency and vibration, raising your frequency and your vibration, is really the key to ridding yourself of any disease or ailment.
Yes.
Because the higher you're vibrating, then those diseases cannot reside in the body. They're not a match. Everything you and I talk about is, whatever it is that you want, you have to match that frequency and vibration to have it because it all exists. It's
Yes,
just we're not a matching that frequency and vibration to bring it to us.
absolutely. So, let's talk about about so if somebody wants to match the frequency of health,
Mhm.
right? What state of being should they be in?
Peace, love, harmony, and it's also a belief that you are healthy.
Yes. I,
Because I
yeah.
know people, they will dwell on thinking that they have something.
Yes.
And they're consumed with it because they have one pain or something, and their whole attention and focus is, oh my God, it could be this. And then they start Googling and then they start researching, yes, I have this, yes, I have this. And then they actually start manifesting that
Yes.
because of their belief system. But
Absolutely.
if you absolutely know you are healthy, you see it, you believe it, you feel it, you raise your vibration and your frequency, then you're not going to match any disease or ailment.
Yes, absolutely. Because that formula that you're talking about is what we talk about a lot. When the person has a thought about something, about that disease, and then they start speaking about that disease, and then they take actions that would match them having that disease, it's that's the formula: the thought, the word, and the action.
Yes,
That's what they're doing is they're just basically following the blueprint for manifestation, but they're just doing it in a way which they don't realize.
correct.
So all they have to do is reverse that thought, word, and action.
Exactly. I want to just pull up that what we were talking on. So for the audience, it's our interpretation of what happened that hurts you. So it's nothing can hurt you, but you hurt yourself by your interpretation and your thoughts. That's what does it. And to empower yourself, come up with a solution that resides in shifting your perspective. So how would we go about shifting a perspective if they're so locked into that negative way of thinking and being and doing?
Yeah. So Wayne Dyer says it the best. He says, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. So it's just a matter of we really have to almost visualize ourselves stepping out of our body and turning around and looking at our life from a complete now I'm the observer. I'm not the victim, I'm the observer. So I'm stepping out of my body, I'm turning around and I'm looking at my life. And now, when I can get a clear picture of my life, I can realize, oh my gosh, look what I've created. So now, if I can change the way I'm looking at things I'm looking at will change. So if I can change the way I'm looking at my health and I can go from the victim to the creator, then all of a sudden the health is going to change. Like you're saying, when I have that inner feeling of peace and that inner feeling of health and just knowing that I'm the healer and just walk around saying, oh my gosh, yeah, something changed. I can feel it inside of me, something changed. Versus, I feel this. What does this mean? I Googled this. Does it mean I have this? I should get a test for this. So when you change the way you're looking at your thoughts and your beliefs, what you're looking at will change right in front of your eyes.
Another modality I like to use, and I'm sure you use this as well, is step out of your body and then look at a screen and play the movie of what is going on in your life. Like, see it on the screen, your life going on that screen, playing it. Then pause that and replay that, but see exactly how you want your life to be. Play that out on that screen and then step back into your body, because whatever the mind can conceive, it can create. So
Absolutely.
if you can conceive health on that screen or how you want your life to be, you can create that.
Absolutely. And that's such a powerful tool. And Jose
It is.
Silva would use that a lot, the three scene technique where, just like you were saying, you put up that scene. You have one scene on the screen where that's the problem and you're feeling the problem. Then you go to another screen where you're feeling this change. You're offering a solution, and then you go to the final screen and you see your life at the end result exactly the way you've seen it now because you've changed it. It's so
Right.
powerful. Absolutely.
I have used that modality a lot in my life, and it's really, really powerful. I mean, people don't think making that little shift and doing these modalities really have an impact on your life,
Yeah.
but they do. They are profound. I mean, our mind, our belief system, our thoughts, what we speak actually it's got life in it. Like
Yeah.
it creates, we are creator beings. So whatever we're dwelling upon, whatever we're creating in our life, even just by, visualization, you can change anything in your life.
It's so powerful. It really is. Like you're saying, with that little shift in visualizing it, you're going to create it. And the other aspect that I would tell our viewers is it's so easy to hear this, get excited, and then doubt it. Because
Yes,
that's where the ego brain's going to bring you. It's going to bring you to, well, that's just too easy. Can't just can't just shift that fast. Yeah, but yeah, it can. It can,
right.
and it does shift that fast because
Yes,
everything's happening now. It doesn't have to take a long time. It can happen now. You could do it in an instant if you change your mind with an absolute belief.
yes, absolutely. I know, looking in my life, certain things happened, and I have a lot of tolerance for a long period of time, but then I get to a point where I'm done. Like when you get me to that point where I'm done, I just like clear the board, and it's like I just change instantly. But it
Yes.
takes, for me, it takes it has taken, I should say, um, a lot to get me to that point. But then once I make that shift and that change, it's instant.
Yes. And I agree. Listen, I've been there also where there was times it took me, you know, years to shift something because I was learning this technology. I was learning, that we are the creators of our reality, but I would fight it. Am I really the creator? Does it really work? What if it doesn't work for me? And it's like you hear it, you're like, wow, that sounds so good. And then the ego would take me right back to the doubt. But what if it doesn't work? What if it's not going to change? Right.
Right.
And that was the version of me not wanting to let go of that fear.
Right.
Yes.
Because, well, who are you then without that?
Right. Exactly right. So that means I didn't even know who I was. So I had to go out and find who I was.
A
So
lot of people are comfortable in what they know because the fear of the unknown is scarier than living in what they know. Even though it may be horrible, they may be so uncomfortable. Like the woman that was in a horrible abusive marriage, she was too afraid to leave
Yes,
because that fear of being on your own, who are you?
correct.
How are you going to manage and survive? At least I know what I have right here, even though I'm not happy.
Yes. And her fear was, well, if I leave him, then where is the money coming from? And where's the support coming from? And where will I live? And then once she had a chance, we had a chance to change that, and she was empowered and realized I could do all this on my own.
Mhm.
That's when it all changed, when she realized her power.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I can say the same in my life. I was in a marriage I was not happy in for the longest time. But the fear of the unknown of how am I going to manage on my own? How am I going to survive? I have children. How am I going to do this? At least I know what I have where I am and I'm provided for, but that fear of the unknown kept me paralyzed in that marriage
Yeah.
until I had breast cancer. And then when you're faced with a life death situation, it was like, okay, I'm going to do whatever I have to do because I want to live. I'm going to get
Absolutely.
out of this. And I just went out on a limb and I trusted and had faith and I surrendered to God and just said, okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to do this. I'm walking this walk, and I know you will be there to protect me and guide me. And my faith is so strong that I know either I'm going to get wings and fly, or you'll put a net under me and catch me. And
Yeah.
that's how I just went. And I've been living my life that way ever since.
Yep. And that becomes the biggest formula, what you just said. You had total faith, you had total surrender, you trusted.
Yes.
That was the most powerful thing that I've ever seen as well in my life.
Yes.
And in wrapping this up, I would say the first thing, we always want to give our listeners, tips. That's the first thing. The first thing is go into a place of absolute surrender,
Yeah.
trust. Bring it back to your higher self. Bring it back to God. Bring it back to your angels. Trust in yourself. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
What else would you say?
Trust the process, not
Mhm.
just in yourself, but trust that when your belief and faith are so solid, nothing will stop that. Like you put the wheels in motion to create the change in your life, and your faith is so solid and steadfast that no matter what, you don't waver from that. And you
Yes.
know you'll be protected and safe. But how do you instill that to somebody to have such unshakable faith? Um, it's just something, it's like a muscle you have to work on strengthening.
Yes. What I try to show them is right now you're having unshakable faith in the negative. So once I was able to get myself to see that I had a total faith in fear, then I was like, well, I could just reverse that to a total faith in belief and love and that it's going to work out. So that's what I like to do is I try to get them to see, well, you're already believing in something. You're just
Right.
believing in the negative. So take that energy and turn it into the positive.
Right.
And then wow, I already have that tool. Yeah, it's easy.
Most people live their life in a negative state of mind.
Yes.
And I'm the opposite. And I know you are too. I live in a positive state of mind. I live in an optimistic state of mind. I
Mhm.
believe in miracles. I see them happen in my life all the time because I believe in it. It's a belief system.
Yes.
I believe that, where I put my thoughts and my energy and my focus, I'll create that. And
Absolutely.
yes, some things don't happen instantly, but I know the wheels of motion are working to bring that to me. And some things take a little longer.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And I was in the same place. It was not easy, but I never gave up. I said, I'm
Right.
going to change this thinking.
Yeah.
That's why I know we're here doing this podcast, because if we can do it, our listeners can do it.
Yeah. I mean, I used to have stinking thinking. I really did. It's hard to believe, but I did.
Cool.
I used to be negative. I used to be cynical. I was never optimistic. I wasn't positive. But
You're
I
not.
have changed who I am because of doing this work. And it's profound. I mean,
It
it
is.
also like all of that negative thinking ages you. Like I look younger today by being positive and changing my belief system and believe I'm healthy. I know I'm healthy. I feel it. I everything in my life is working to reverse what I had brought on from my whole life. So
Yeah,
it's unlearning everything.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Holly, this was an absolute pleasure doing this. This was so much fun.
Yes, it's awesome. So for the listeners, what's your final wrap up for them?
It's just have absolute trust and faith and belief that you are the creator of your reality.
Yeah, I agree. It's when you get to a point of having unshakable faith and belief, then anything and everything is possible. And
Absolutely.
don't go into the doubt. The doubt
Nope.
is the poison. You
Yes.
have to be like so firmly planted, like the willow tree that just sways with, the wind, with things that happen, but it doesn't bend or break it.
Absolutely. I
All
love
right,
it.
everybody, have a wonderful day. This was great, Matt, and we'll see you on our next podcast.
Thank
Take
you.
care.